Well, my history is a little bit convoluted, you might say. I was in the cable television business for 15 years as a startup situation, and that morphed into a company called Canadian Cable Systems, of which I became a vice president at age 28, and that morphed into what is now called Rogers Cable Television. We lived on a farm just north of London, and the issues around private water supplies was a fairly big issue in the rural communities. And we had no way really to reliably disinfect water supply. I came upon at a PTA meeting for our kids. I was talking to one of the other parents who was consulting to this small toolbox company that had come up with an ultraviolet device and a patent. And that was the beginnings of Trojan Technologies in April 1st, 1977. So we did several years of research into municipal wastewater, about 3 years before we really got to a full-scale pilot plant. And that's what got us really on a fast growth track, starting in about 1983-84. So it took us about 5-6 years to really develop the science and the technology. The key for me was to hire people who knew a lot more than I did, and which is a lot of fun, by the way. And it also attracts great people if you have a certain confidence that others perhaps might know more than you do, and bring them into a situation and let them run with their abilities and their talents. You know, that's always a bit of a revelation for any entrepreneur, that perhaps there are a lot of other entrepreneurs out there who don't necessarily start a business, where they're entrepreneurial in the sense of wishing to risk their careers with a startup company. And that's a very dynamic energy then that develops within a corporation. So I found that we had just great people, able to attract great people. So my role became more or less one of marketing the technology, doing all the public relations, do all the liaison with the regulatory agencies, because our industry is highly regulated by the EPAs and the Ministries of Environment, and also to almost immediately develop a global perspective for the company. I would travel every continent every year several times to introduce our technology to around the world, and that became a huge asset to us and allowed us to think globally right from the outset, because we knew the Canadian market itself is, relatively speaking, a relatively small market. Once you have a team in place, then that allows you then to start thinking about the broader community and see what kind of involvement you can have with that community. So after about 25 years, when I stepped back as president and CEO of the company, I was able to take my talents and also contribute to the broader London community. But as the tech business evolved, we felt the need to also form TechAlliance and bring all the high-tech companies into it. TechAlliance has been an important foundational block-building organization that we should celebrate, and that people should pay attention to and support. Of course, you know, in the broader community, I was on the board of governors at Western for 8 years, and still, I just came from an audit committee from the Ivy Business School, and you know, our educational institutions are very important to companies like Trojan Technologies. We do a lot of joint research together with many universities, including Western. There are many moments, you know, where you, especially looking back in retrospect, is some key decisions that you made. Probably the first and foremost, is people. It's the people that you bring on board that helps you build the business. And I treasure all my associates who made this huge contribution. Without them, Trojan would not be where it is today. Now a company that well north of $300 million of revenue a year, and with about staff about 700 to 800 people around the world. In our case, we treat now water for people, for over 1 billion people around the world, in over 10,000 cities and towns around the world. And to bring quality safe drinking water to over 1 billion people is quite exceptional, and it's a lot of fun.